I've been in theater and dance since I was 6 years old. I did tap, ballet, and jazz, and then I moved up in my adult years to African dance. And along with that, I did classes in theater along the way. Has been my first real theatrical performance in a number of years. I love theater, I love the arts. It allows me to be free. And I play the part of Shirley Chisholm. And what better way to be free is to fight for your freedom. She fought for her freedom for all of us, and that's what I believe in. I believe in truth, and I seek truth. And that's why I love playing this part, because it allows me to continue to grow in seeking who we really are, humanitarians, human beings. There's only one race, human. And until we acknowledge that, I will always be acting and trying to let out my freedom, even if it's through the theater of the arts. So I'm glad to be able to showcase my talent, how big or small it is, but I love acting and dancing. And the more I can do it, as long as I can kick my leg up and do a couple of things, you got me. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dorcas Campos. I'm so thankful for this opportunity to play Celia Cruz in the Theater of the Arts. I started singing at the age of 3 at the church. My family is very artistic, and in my school years, I was able to do some performances and also a lot of singing. And once they heard Dorcas Campos, bueno, I took off, and I've been doing that ever since. I'm so thankful that I was able to be chosen once again to play Celia Cruz. Celia Cruz, a very powerful woman. She was determined that nothing would stop her. She was able to follow her dreams, in spite of the fact that people didn't want her with the Zona Montancera. She said, I'm going to do this, and she was able to be successful. I want to be successful myself, and so this is an opportunity. I love it. Thank you again. I thank Leona Ho for asking me once again to be Celia Cruz. And I'm hoping that I did a wonderful job, because I had a great time playing the part Celia Cruz. Thank you so very much.
Hi, I'm Cheryl DeLever. I play Sojourner Truth in Historical Woman. Sojourner was a very bodacious, vociferous, arrogant, determined, and opinionated woman, so that means that I probably don't have to do a lot of acting. I'm pretty much like her character, and I'm very glad to have this opportunity to perform in the Bronx with my colleagues, Leona Hall and John Graves, who I've known for like 30 years. I just wanted to say this is going to be a very exciting experience, and I'm glad to be a part of solutions and not part of the problem. Thank you.
My name is Guadalupe Garcia Vasquez, and I'm playing Yemaya. Yemaya is an Orisha from the Yoruba religion. I actually wrote the script myself, and I have been a performer since the early 80s. I started in Mexico. I perform in Europe, San Francisco, New York. I'm also a poet and a writer, and my roles have to do with mythology, which Yoruba is a legend from the Yoruba religion. And she is the goddess, the divinity of the ocean and the giver of life. And in her patakis are the legends, she sings with Ogun, the Orisha of the blacksmith. She is with the Legba and Odudua, one of the eldest Orishas. I particularly like my role because I'm actually a Santera, and I'm actually a daughter of Yemaya. So, you know, I follow the religion myself. And I feel that her role as an Orisha, as a woman, is very important, the giver of life and the expression of love and motherhood.
My name is Mary Buckley, and I came to this wonderful country from Scotland. I came here as a nanny, worked hard all my life, raised a family, retired, and decided to join the senior center, and I met Leona, and it was there that I started acting. And I'm now playing the part of Lady Christian Bruce, who was the sister of a famous Scottish king back in the 12th century. And of course, we were fighting for our independence from England constantly. And while the men were away fighting, she led the troops at home, and she saved the garrison at Kildrum Castle. And she lived a long life. She had 4 marriages, widowed 4 times, as would be in those days when the men constantly fighting. And she raised a family, and she lived to the ripe old age of 85, which in those days was astonishing.
That's. Do you want to tell me a little bit about your acting, and when did you start?
I started about 2 years ago with Leona. I started, and this is the part that I started, and I just, I like it very much. I didn't realize that I could go before people and let them hear me, and listen to the audience too. And I'm just learning so much. It's like another start for me in my senior years.
Hello, my name is Barbara Taylor George, and I have the honor of playing Rosa Parks in the intergenerational theater groups, Historical Women, and how historical women changed our journeys. I have a brief, I didn't have a lot of acting experience, but as a child, I always used to be in church recitals, and, then as I grew up, I was also in church programs. I enjoy playing Rosa Parks because she is a very, very significant person in the civil rights era, and that's the era that I was very, very familiar with. She was a very peaceful woman, but she was very strong, and she was very committed in what she wanted to do by refusing to get up from from the seat on the bus. And I find that working in this group is very enlightening to me. And everyone, the director, assistant director, everyone, are really lovely. It's like a real family.
My name is Sally Smith, and I play the role of Harriet Tubman. I play the role of Harriet Tubman with great pride and a bit of sadness, knowing that the struggles, the revolutionary struggle that she went through with the Underground Railroad, traveling throughout from south, north, and into Canada for the freedom of our slaves. And the sad part is today, 156 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence, we are still going through some of the same struggles which she fought so hard to abolish, and we are still going through some of the same struggles, and with great sadness. We are, as a people, as a Negro or Black Americans, we're still the first hired, the last hired, and the first fired. And it's so sad, the sadness of what our foreparents went through the struggle of the revolution and the civil rights, that we today are still walking the struggle.
I love this historical play about historical women. I've had not too much acting experience, but I acted in one of Leona's previous productions, and she called me in on this one, and I was very happy to do so because my character is someone that I really didn't know that much about. Ida B. Wells was like unknown to me, and she was very significant in the civil rights and activist movements. She founded she was one of the co-founders of the NAACP. She was had her own newspaper. She wrote scathing reports, and that was her passion, writing reports about the Southern lynchings in the South, which was very brave at that time for a woman, especially a black woman. That was very brave of her. She also had a lot to do with legislation regarding blacks working in civil service areas. So me being a retired postal worker, I related to that very much so. So I enjoyed playing her part, and I enjoyed the production, and thank you.
I'm Dale Kinney, and this is my second production I've been in with Leona. I was Hatshepsut in the first, which was a female African pharaoh. And actually, I'd been to Egypt, and I'd been to her temple. So now I'm Susan B. Anthony. My life, I'll get back to her, but my life grew up in Baltimore. I'm also a social worker. And I've always been passionate about human rights. I love nature. And I have a mixed family. My son is African American, my daughter European American, and my grandchildren are all African American mix, Caribbean. And so I heard, the person that played Oshanta or Harriet Tubman. I too have a lot of grief over what's happening in our country. All the, well, I see the refugees, and it makes me sad because people don't want them. I know there's some fear, but you know, we can't turn people away to die. And then I see how many black lives are being murdered by police. And you know, those two things make me very sad, as well as our environment. So I try to do what I can. It's overwhelming because there's more than anyone can do. And I did recently join the National Action Network. I have been involved in demonstrations over the year and some writing. I'm also a poet, and I've done some writing to get funding also. But Susan B. Anthony, she worked for women's rights, and I've had to fight at times for my own rights as a woman. And you know, I have a great concern for my children, my grandchildren, and my one great-grandson, and what kind of life they're going to have in this country. I think that voting rights is so important, and human rights. And Susan B. Anthony fought for women's rights. She fought for voting rights. Still a really important concern in our country, because it seems like we're going backwards in terms of voting rights. And we have to really remember everybody, people of color and women, really women around the world, many of whom are abused and, you know, forced into slavery, sex slavery. So I think it's important to remember Susan B. Anthony. It wasn't easy in her time to stand up for what she did. And most of the women that went into women's rights were first abolitionists, and then they realized that they couldn't speak as women. So they realized they had to fight for their own rights also.
Well, my name is Curtis LeBoy. Myself, I'm a hip-hop dancer. I love to dance, background dancing currently for Damian Anthony, which is the assist director of this historical women's play. Also, I just found my role and my passion in acting. I'm a dancer at heart, but then really got into acting along the way. I love to make people laugh, so that's what made me get into acting as well. Like, I feel like if I can dance in front of everybody, why not make everybody laugh? Also, I played a time traveler in the historical women's play. It's a very mystical and magical role. You gotta take you know, your audience through time to meet each and every one of these important women in history. And it's like, you know, I feel that's me. Like, I like to be mystical and mysterious and let's go here, let's go there. So, I really feel like I can take the crowd, I can hold the crowd for that much. I just recently got into acting. This would be my very first play, and I'm glad that it's this one, and I'm glad I'm working with the people that I'm working with, and hope to have my career in dancing and acting, you know, increased more.
Good evening. My name is John R. Graves, and I'm one of the writers, directors in our intergenerational program that we started in, I guess, 2014. And, well, just to tell you a little bit about me, I've been in the business since I was very, very young. And, but I started studying seriously when I was about 14, when I was about 14 years old. So I spent a good 25 years bumming around in the theater. But I've been a chef for close to 40 years. So, you know, it's all artistic in one way or another, you know. So they're interconnected. Because as a child, my parents kept telling me, what are you going to do when you can't do that? What are you going to do when you can't do that? Well, I wasn't going to do nothing. You know? So the forces of the universe said, look, let's get this boy something to do. So they drafted me and put me in the Army, and they sent me to cook school. And so that's how I became a chef. So there's my backup, so to speak. I've traveled across the country doing children's theater. I've traveled through Europe when I was in the service. And so, I mean, you know, writing is a kind of new thing to me. It just started in the past 4, 5, 6 years or so. But it's been fun and it's been dynamic. I wrote the scene for Rosa Parks and the journalism student, and I hope you enjoy it.
My name is Leona Haywood Hull, and I am the producer-director of Historical Women, an intergenerational company of young people and mature adults. This program started in 2013, I believe, no, 2014. The Spark program is a program that brings artists into different senior centers. And one day at BronxWorks, when I was teaching a theater workshop, the ladies in the workshop said, you know, we get no respect from the young people. Nobody tells young people the contributions of women. And that's where we started. It started out at 5 historical women. And in the following year, this year, 2015, we took it to a whole nother level, historical women. I was teaching theater workshops underneath the Spark program, again, a very wonderful program sponsored by the Bronx Council on the Arts, the Department of Aging, New York City Cultural Foundation. And, you know, it was about getting the seniors involved, and some of them developed their own characters. And I asked my colleague, John R. Graves, to come in and help me out. He's a very well-established artist. I've known him for years.